Welcome to Artsy. Welcome to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast, friends. My name is Andrew Norris, your host, and thank you for being here. This week's guest is Stephen Castillo. Stephen is a painter living in, I think we said Indianapolis. Yeah, that's right. He goes by Stephen the Artist on Instagram. That's Stephen with a V. And he has a unique take on the paint pour phenomenon that's blown up in the last decade, I guess, because he actually makes figures out of the patterns of pour that he makes. I think it's a brilliant idea. That's why I reached out to him. Partially because he seemed to come out of nowhere right around when the pandemic started with this new style, and I really dig it. I think there's a lot there. In this episode, we talk about his backstory growing up in, well, I guess between El Salvador and the U.S. From ages 5 to 15, when he finally permanently moved to the States, the culture shock therein. We talk a bit about his process, about lucid dreaming. Terrence McKenna may or may not have come up. And I think this is a really cool convo. Really nice to meet you, Stephen. Thank you for taking the time. And we have a new patron this week. Shout out to Mr. Zachary Brown. You can find him at Visionary Voyager on Instagram. Zachary's out here, well, making visionary paintings. Nice work, man. Keep it up. Thank you for your support. Really appreciate it. And if you'd like to support the Patreon, you could head on over to patreon.com/RTAF podcast, where you will find 3 tiers available to show your support. $4, $8, and $16 per month are the tiers there. You get video, you get a shout out, you get guest suggestions, you get merch, all depending on what level of subscription you would like to dig your teeth into. That address again is patreon.com/RTAF podcast. And before we start the show, I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Charles I this week. I didn't know Charles, but by all accounts, he was an amazing human being on top of being an amazing musician. My heart goes out to his friends and his family. And other than that, I don't have many words, but I'd like to take a little moment of silence here before we start the show. Stephen Castillo.
What's up?
Nice to meet you, man.
Hello. Nice meeting you.
Yeah. I wanted to have you on because I feel like you came out of nowhere, like right around the time the pandemic started. I saw your work, and I guess we'll get right into your work, if that's all right with you. And then
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll circle back and we can talk about, like, you know, how you became an artist or when you knew that you were going to be an artist. But I think I have your Instagram pulled up, so I might screen share just right off the top here. Yeah, I got it. All right. Yeah, so, like, I think what you're doing is so just, it's like, it hits on so many levels. Like, it's an idea I wish I had. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And like, it's simple, but it's like, it's classy. And I don't know, I just love it. So I'm gonna bring it up. And I wanted to ask you, like, what your process is for some of these paintings. You can see that, right?
Yeah. I can see that. So they all start with an acrylic pour.
Yeah.
Pouring paint on the canvas, moving it in all directions until I find a pattern that I like. And I always go for a specific pattern, and it is like the attempt to get to that pattern, but it doesn't always come out like that. And that's the first step. Once that dries, then I start painting on it.
Nice. So you're basically like cutting in with like shadows
Yes.
after you've poured it. Yeah.
Yeah. Shaping the pattern with the shadows and yeah.
Oh, that's great. And you're kind of using like Renaissance, or like classical, even like as far back as like, are these like this David, right?
Yeah.
This is a Renaissance. It was made during the Renaissance, correct?
Yeah.
I just want to get my art history right so that I don't, sound dumb. But like this is that a Da Vinci version of Jesus?
Yeah.
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 That's super sweet, man. So when you're pouring, are you like lifting up the canvas to try and get the pour to sort of like move in a certain direction?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on how the paint, how thick the paint is. Sometimes it's more fluid than others.
Uh-huh.
So I'll have to lift it and have it like vertical, and then rotate it like that and then look at it, see how fast it's moving. Just like try to control it as much as possible, but just moving it. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. So you're like working directly with this kind of chaotic thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Like I pushed it.
Yeah,
Pushed it.
go ahead.
Like I just push it in certain ways, but at the end, it's just like when it settles, it does its own thing. I just like suggest, shapes or like suggest patterns, but at the end, it just, it's whatever happens.
And you're not ever using like a squeegee or any sort of like tool to like move the pour in the beginning?
No.
Nice. So it's all like kind of just directly onto the canvas.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, so you take that chaos and then you kind of overlay art history on it, basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so
And try to do it as best as possible.
yeah, I gotta ask, like, how did this idea come to you? Did it just pop into your head one day, or?
So 5 years ago, when I first started painting,
Yeah.
I saw another guy on Instagram have just pours like that, and I asked him how he did it, and he just told me just pour paint and move the canvas.
Yeah.
So when I did it, I saw this pour, and it kind of just like I was like, this needs something else. If you go, far down,
Yeah.
you'll see like the very first try was the Jimi Hendrix stencil that I tried like way back, and that was just like an idea. I was like, okay, but I didn't feel that I had the skills. Like just further down.
Jim Morrison. Where's Jimmy? Oh, I see. So okay. So this is a while ago. There he is. This was your first experiment with it?
Yeah, right there. Right there.
Wow. Beginning in 2017. Nice.
So on that one, I poured it on the center, and I didn't know how much paint I should use. I didn't pour enough paint to cover the whole canvas. So, I poured it, and then it just stayed in the center. So I kind of like just like pulled the paint, towards the edges, and then let it sit. And then that's when I saw that I could put something on top of it, and I tried doing that one, and that's when it first started. And then, I kind of would, experiment every now and then with that same style, but I didn't have the skills to, start shading or like shape it, how I would imagine it.
Yeah.
But that's where it started.
That's sweet. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at all your other work too, and I had looked at it before we hopped on here just to kind of get a context. And it's, here's a Jim Morrison one, kind of the same style, like more of a, like you were saying, more of a stencil, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
Did you use spray on that, or were you using brush for the black
All
outlines?
brush,
All brush. Okay.
just brush. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, it seems like um, to me, like when I saw the first, I think the first one I saw was, and I noticed the timestamp on it earlier. It was this one right before all the official like quarantine stuff happened,
Yeah, that's yeah.
and I mean, damn, I really like this fold right here. I know, like,
Yeah,
I'm getting a little too like specific and nerdy because
that's all good. Please do.
only some people will see this video. Only the Patreon subscribers, and for now at least. But like, I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. When did I don't know how to articulate this question necessarily, but I'm just I'm just curious as what or when you got the confidence to say, okay, now I can pull this thing off, this idea that I had nearly 4 years ago, or near at this point it'd be like 3 years ago, right? Um,
Yeah.
what was it
Yeah. So
that gave you that confidence?
so at that point, it had been a while since I had tried doing something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this commission of this like way bigger canvas than that, and it was on the same style, but it was the opposite. It was like with white highlights, bringing the highlights out of the pour, and it
Yeah.
was the face of a Buddha. So as I was doing that, it just kind of like brought me back. And, I thought how I had all these years of now like learning the brush and, knowing how to move it and all that. So it gave me the idea to now try again. So then I saw this image and I did see it as being a little challenge. So it was a thing where I was like, if I can do it like I'm imagining it, it could be really cool. And I went all in. I really tried with that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that I really, really tried.
Nice. How long did that one take you?
Probably a few weeks
Yeah.
working on and off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 18 by 24, all
Yeah.
acrylic, and yeah, if you get like anyone listening who hasn't checked out Steven's artwork, um, Steven the artist on Instagram, check him out. Good stuff. Um, so one question I had was, I'm assuming you're using references for the
Yeah.
figures over top, right?
Yeah.
Are you just eyeballing it? Are you gridding it out in some way? Are you using a projector? Like, what's your technique on that?
Like the something like a grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To get the proportions and all that. And, when I started doing those, I would actually do like a grid or, like a doodle grid or something on that. But then as I kept doing it, I just started using the actual background as a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So are you taking a photo of the initial pour and then are you gridding it out off of the canvas somewhere, like in Photoshop or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I just have the reference and I just, transfer it.
Sweet. So what made you pick like I mean, I think my guess would be maybe what it is, but what made you pick these kind of like statues from the Renaissance and other kind of
So,
classical?
so when I was a kid, I grew up around the Catholic church.
Yeah.
I used to play soccer every Sunday, so I had to be, in the church to be able to play. So, I was around sculptures and all kinds of things like that. So that kind of just stayed with me. So later on, learning about art history and all that, when seeing those, they just kind of hit a little spot that combining everything that is current with me, and all those ingredients just came out as that.
Nice. So it's like this confluence of experience and
Yeah.
interest that sort of like uh was there anything in particular where you like did you have like a memory or anything like, oh, I remember like playing soccer and going into the church and seeing these statues. Maybe I could use this poor thing uh with, with those.
Um, it wasn't that obvious. It was
Uh-huh.
more of like, so I have these dreams where I have like a specific place that I go to, and it's this big space with many rooms, and there's like all the things that I remember, or everything that I've experienced, it just shows up in a certain way. So I've seen sculptures that are like melting, like the memories are like I'm turning a corner and then there's this room and this huge sculpture and it's like melting. So this was just, trying to bring that out in a way. And this was the closest that I could do. But it's all part of, everything that I've experienced, and it kind of just comes out, not even directly. It's just whenever I'm doing the pour or choosing an image, whatever feels right is what comes out.
Nice. So you're just letting like your intuition guide you in a
Yeah.
certain way. That dream thing is super interesting too, man. Is it like a recurring dream?
Yeah. It's the same. It's like a similar, it's a huge castle.
Yeah.
And I always like begin sometimes in the ocean, in a boat, just going towards it. And I can see it at the top of a cliff. And then I'm inside of it. And, I see the same things a lot of times, but then there's always new things,
Hmm.
you know, and I'm always like trying to figure out what it is after,
Yeah.
after it happens.
Have you ever
But the,
realized? Sorry, go ahead.
but the statues are something that were like, it left a big impression.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever? This is getting a little off track, but like, have you ever realized you were dreaming that dream when you were in the dream?
Yeah.
So are you into lucid dreaming then?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. What what kind of I guess like there are techniques to like sort of get a person into a state where they're more likely to lucid dream. Is that right?
Yeah. It's like while you're awake, you can do like reality checks,
Mm,
just like real, like remember that you're, awake. So then the more you do that as you're dreaming, you're just gonna keep doing it. And then one of those times is gonna be like, oh, I'm dreaming right now.
yeah.
And it'll be the same awareness that you have as when you're awake.
Yeah.
But it's like a matter of practicing that.
Yeah. I've only pulled lucid dreaming off maybe 3 or 4 times in my life. Um, but then like it seems to me like as soon as I do, I I wake up like my body wants to wake up. It's like somehow it me realizing that I'm dreaming is like tricking my nervous system into waking me up or something like that. But then, I usually like get off the ground a few feet before I'm like,
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
waking
yeah,
up, you know what I mean? Um, so would you say that like that kind of like that other side of reality, right? Like the dreaming kind of side of reality, is that what sort of influences your art, or
yeah,
is there is a connection
definitely.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Let's kind of like try and dovetail your backstory into all this at this point. It seems like a good spot. Um, when did you realize you wanted to be a painter?
A painter, about 5, 7 years ago. No, about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I was watching Bob Ross, and I had been watching him for hours straight.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to feel the brush and, the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
I had been thinking about it for a long time, but coming from just using a pencil or markers, the brushes seemed, like I wouldn't have much control over it, comparing it to a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't feel like taking that risk, you know.
Nice.
But watching Bob Ross, I was left with just wanting to experience, the brush on canvas.
Yeah.
And slowly I was just, got brushes, got paint and some canvas panels, started imitating Bob Ross, just to get that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was like, okay, you can do so much with this, with the brush and paint.
Yeah.
And that's where it started.
So were you drawing before then a bunch?
Yeah, since I can remember, since I was a kid, just drawing cartoons, trying to do graffiti on my sketchbook, all that.
Oh yeah. Do you have any other mediums that you were interested in? Like I saw that you spray paint a lot of these uh this style now, and I'm curious about that. We can talk about like maybe the process of that later. But like, did you grow up like making music or anything else like that, writing?
I haven't done any of that, but I'm interested in all that. Like I wish I could be, have time for all that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, at a certain point you just have to double and triple and
Yeah.
quadruple down on making paintings,
Yeah.
right? Um so yeah, okay. So you've been drawing all your life. Um w- where did you grow up?
So I was born in El Salvador.
Okay,
That's
nice.
in Central America.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. And you grew up there?
For the first 5 years of my life, I, grew up there, and then I traveled here because I have family here. And from the age of 5 to 15, I kept traveling back and forth. And so I kind of grew up here and there, for the first 10 years, 15 years of my life.
Totally.
And then when I was 15, I stayed here and then did high school here. And I've been here since. It's been like 12 years or so.
Okay, nice, nice. So did you move to where did you move to in the States?
Indiana.
Indiana. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the family was. So this is where I landed and stayed.
Nice. And so you're in Indianapolis, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Do you think like growing up in El Salvador, was it like a culture shock coming here?
Yeah, definitely. But as a kid, I feel like I was just more able to adapt,
Yeah, a little more
and
open.
also it wasn't, so much a shock because I kept going back. So it was like a easing into being here. By the time I stayed, I was like, it was normal for me to be here. And I also preferred it here.
Hmm.
So I think it just went in the best way it could.
Nice. Yeah, that's perfect. You kind of get like
Yeah.
a slow introduction to the American culture, I guess,
Yeah.
over
And it's
time.
like by that time, I went into high school and I already knew a little bit of English. So it was easier to get into that.
Hmm.
And I did all high school and it was, just, I was cool with all that.
Nice.
Preferred to be here. Yeah.
So what was El Salvador like? If you could paint a picture of what it was like for you growing up there and going back and forth, like what were the biggest differences and what are some of the things that were like almost the same or very similar?
So growing up there, the neighborhood where I grew up, I feel like everybody was like a big family. It was like everybody lived so close, and the thing was to be outside, hanging out with everyone,
Hmm.
playing soccer or just like running around, and everybody was outside all the time. So it was like a big family. You knew everybody to a really deep level.
Hmm.
It was a huge connection with the whole neighborhood,
Yeah.
and friends were like really good friends. You know,
Yeah.
so then coming here, it was the difference was that you didn't know your neighbors, or people didn't go outside as much. Everybody was inside, and you had to drive to go see your family. So it was just a matter of like having less connections here. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, I grew up close to this big soccer field and close to the woods, so I was always on an adventure, going somewhere, exploring with the friends.
And that's in El Salvador. You're next to the
Yeah,
soccer field
yeah.
in the woods. Nice.
Hmm.
So is it like a jungle down there? Like jungle woods, or what were we talking? I'm not sure on the
Not
geography.
right.
Yeah.
Not where I lived, but
Okay.
there was a lot of wood for sure. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, one thing I'll kind of like piggyback off of on that is I feel like for me at least in my experience like American society's gotten even more isolated. Like you
Yeah.
were talking about how everybody, used to play outside in El Salvador at least, they probably still do, but like everybody plays outside, all your neighbors, like it's like a tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, like I know I was just a kid, so I didn't have a full understanding or picture of what was going on, but like we knew our neighbors on all sides and like I played with tons of kids in the neighborhood and my parents were on first name bases with like
Mm.
tons of people in the neighborhood and I don't know what happened, but like now as an adult, like the place I live, I know my next door neighbor because we were friends already, right?
Okay.
But then like the trying to like talk to people and like connect with people, it's just a little different or more difficult. I don't know what that is though. Like, is it just like I don't know what that is, But I agree. I agree
Yeah.
that it's like some parts of like our, our cultural style seem a little like empty or like they're like missing a big chunk of what it means to like be a human existing in the world.
Yeah. Also, the way that the houses were set up over there, they were right next to each other,
Mm,
sharing a wall, and it
okay.
was a row of like 25 houses,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then right in front of it, it was another row facing the house. So it was like, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like so many families in this space, where you had to walk through in front of all the houses to go to the main road, and you know, one or two houses had people selling, you know, things out of their house, like whatever you needed. So the store was just, a few houses down,
Yeah.
and you just walked through it, and it was, your friend.
Yeah. That's super that's something that's definitely very different. Um Now we're all sort of like we're sort of doing that, but it's everybody's on the internet just like hawking
Yeah.
their wares. I
Yes.
I feel like I just see so many more people like who have businesses now. Um
Mm.
it's just so crazy. It seems like if everybody has a business, then everybody's sort of like on this like marketing tip and salesman kind of like attitude.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's like we're just selling stuff to each other, and maybe it's turning more into like a barter economy or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
For sure.
interesting to think about. Like, I don't know if that's good or bad, or I'm not passing any judgment on it, but it's
It can be both for sure.
yeah, for sure. Double-edged sword kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so have you been lately? Have you been like just making your living kind of just selling paintings?
Yeah. For the past year. Yeah.
Nice, sweet. What were you? Are you still? Do you have any other side work or just paintings now?
No, that's all I do
Oh
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's so
Yes.
awesome. Love to see that. Um, so are you making prints or anything? What's your strategy for like
So
running your business?
I do have prints, but it's mostly selling my original paintings, and but mostly it's commissions.
Okay, nice.
One after another, and then sometimes I have time to do just a painting out of my own,
Hmm.
which then get me more commissions. So it's like, that's how I've been doing it. And I do have prints of the ones that I do, but I don't keep up with that as much as I should. But yeah,
There's something to be said though for like not having very many prints. I think that keeps the value of the original like maybe a little bit higher. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Some people get like if you know you've like if you've taken an image and like Hello Kitty'd that shit everywhere,
Right.
some buyers might be a little more like hesitant to take the original because they're like, oh man, it's like you put this on coffee mugs and backpacks,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that come
Yeah.
in?
There's a lot that I haven't put on, made available as prints, and just because I haven't been able to do it, I haven't had the time to do it, and it's just then I do more and more, and then you know people are asking for prints. I'm like, yeah, I have prints of some,
Right.
and then they're like, are you gonna have prints of this one? I'm like, maybe at some point, if I get to it. So that's how it's been. But it has worked out to be, like the less you have of that, like the more valuable it is, and people see it like that too.
Yeah,
So it's worked out.
that's nice. Yeah. And you're probably just busy painting if you've got all these like
Yeah,
commissions rolling in, huh?
yeah.
Um, so also one thing I noticed is that you've been making murals recently, right? Or maybe not even just recently, but like um, you've taken this style and you've turned it into I'm going to share the screen again
Okay.
just because I think it's worth looking at. Um, you've taken this style and you've translated it into like bigger wall pieces. Like this one here is one that I had pulled up
Yeah.
earlier. Um,
That is the very first try to do the same style on a wall. And that's actually my third mural. So I've only done like six total or so. But that was the very first time that I tried to do, the pattern on the wall and then the shading on top.
mhm.
And that's what came out.
It's pretty dope. Yeah, I mean, you've kind of like imitated the 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 pouring, the acrylic pouring in
Yeah.
a really interesting way. Can you talk about your process for doing that? Is it sort of the same like making a pattern and then cutting back in, or are
Yeah,
you?
it's the same process, except I'm literally painting every line with the spray can.
Mhm.
And at this point, like I was still learning the spray can, so doing those tight lines was, a whole experience, a whole, learning process. So, for that one, I knew what I was gonna do. So I kind of just did the pattern where I knew the hands were gonna go, but I did it past it so that I could have, room to move the image if I needed to. But I did the pattern and then took a picture of that, and then I did the hands on top and just went in and cut with black paint, black spray paint, some transparent black for the shading,
Yeah.
layers on layers till I, thought that it looked good enough. But it was really challenging to do that first one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially too, you're on in this photo here, you're using the corner of two walls
Yeah.
on a, I guess what would that be? Concave 90-degree angle
Hmm.
where it's like going in.
Yeah. Yeah. The corner right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Um so I'm always curious too, was this sort of maybe looks like a wall that no one would have minded you paint that on? Or did you have to ask permission for this one?
Okay. So that one is actually part of this art park in Tennessee where
Nice.
it's, I think it's about 40 to 50 walls in the woods, and it's this trail that goes through all the walls, and there's walls of different shapes and
Oh,
different sizes. Yeah, right there. They have a jam every spring, summer, and fall,
oh, sweet.
and they have a lot of walls. Yeah. So then I think that's the only wall that is like that, and you know they had another person painting on the other side of that wall, but it's
Nice.
really cool. It's in the woods. Yeah,
Have you ever
I've been
been
there twice.
you've been there twice?
Yeah.
Did you have to get invited or did you just go down
So
there?
when I did my second mural like an hour away from here, and the guy that selects the people for that showed up to paint there, and started talking to him. He told me about that, and he told me to apply, and I did, and he got me that wall, and they get like 50 to 60 artists every time that they do one of those. So that's the other side of my wall, actually.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was on the inside of that.
That's dope. It reminds me of have you ever been to Halloween
I have not.
down in Florida? So my friend Anya, shouts Anya Amador, she puts together this thing called the Mural Maze in the middle of this festival.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I was gonna go this year, but the timing didn't work out.
Yeah, but
yeah.
So like all their walls are like this, right? They're like 90 degrees in some form or fashion, but they're set up in like it's almost like a triangular setup, like into thirds. So there's like these two walls, right? Like how you have this, but then since they're made out of like basically like birch plywood, big like 8x4 planks kind of like drilled together, they put a third one on there so that it like balances it all out, and you basically have like 3 murals on one kind of like structure there, right?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, but that's just, I don't know, just talking out loud here. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah, so
that's the only one that I've done on something like a corner.
It's the third one you've done on something like a corner?
The only one that I've done.
The only one. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Every other one's been flat wall.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to do something like that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, like, it was interesting for me to see this like come up in my feed around the time the pandemic really went into full lockdown, I guess. Did that it seemed like the timing for you couldn't have been like any better, right?
Right. So I think it was the fact that people were online more, maybe.
Yeah.
That people. Okay, so I did that one just because I wanted the first one that you saw, because I wanted to know the other one.
Oh, okay, the very first one. Gotcha.
Yeah, the very first one. That one, it was just a challenge, that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So people saw that one and they started commissioning more like it. So I started doing more and more. I had commissions, and then I started doing some that I wanted to do in that style, and it just kept going and going and going, and I'm still going.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like this actually, like, for whatever reason, sticks in my mind as one of the like novel things that were actually cool that happened around that time, like your paintings. And so yeah, it's like, I'll just remember, like, for me too, that the same kind of thing happened where like I was like definitely selling more art than I normally did. It's like
yeah, I think it was strange.
So strange. I think that my theory was that like people weren't, going to Starbucks or the movies or McDonald's or whatever, and they had, hundreds to like, maybe thousands of dollars just saved up because they weren't, on their normal bullshit. But yeah, man, I guess just like, oh, here's another mural. Okay. So
yeah, that's on the same park.
Are you getting commissioned to do these now, or
no? They just go do them for fun.
Okay, nice. Is it all spray too?
Yeah, that one's all spray. Yeah, that's the second one in that style.
Yeah, this one's so dope, man. You've got some good can control, it looks like.
And I'm still learning that. That's definitely, just like I learned the brushes, I knew that it was just a matter of learning all the movements and all the tricks with the spray paint.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, but it definitely lets you do a lot of things.
For sure. Do you have a wall at your place that you can practice on?
No, actually, every mural that I've done is like I just go there and just practice there. I don't have
Really?
anywhere else to practice. So if you go down, you can see the very first one that I did.
This one?
And for that one, no,
This
like
Oh, the very
down,
first
down.
painting. Got you. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, the mural, the very
Oh,
first mural.
okay. Yeah. This one.
Um,
Or no.
no.
This one?
If you go down a bit more,
That one.
no, it's lower, lower.
This is
That
great
that one right
content.
there. Let me see.
This one? This op art one?
It looks like that. Let me see. Go down a bit more. Bit more. So the very first one I did was like geometrical. No,
Uh-huh.
it's probably like no, it's not higher than that. This is more recent. Let's see.
We'll cut all this out. This kind of like waiting and figuring it all out. But this?
No, right there. Yes, right there.
Yeah, okay.
So that was my very first one, and for that one I had ordered some spray paint, but it didn't arrive on time, so most of it I had to do with brush,
Mm.
and I only had a few spray cans, and that was the very first try at doing a mural. And that's where I realized that spray cans were a whole different thing. And I thought that I was gonna do those lines in circles with the spray can, but I had no control over that, so I ended up doing it all with the brush. But that was my first time painting on a huge surface like that. And from there I just wanted to do it, and I didn't want to just go spray paint illegally and get caught and all that. So
Yeah, yeah.
every mural that I do is just like another time to do more spray painting.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, like drawing circles or painting circles freehand is so tough.
Yeah, I had to use a string for that. It was a challenge too.
Yeah. How long did this one take you?
2 days.
Nice. So I want to get back into your story, man. So when you arrive in the States, kind of like in high school, you were already like drawing all the time, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I always had a sketchbook. Always wanted to do some. Always trying to draw something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was like high school like for you being in like a new country?
Um, it was very strange at first because where I would go to school over there was a Christian school, so it was really strict. I had to wear a uniform, and my hair had to be at a certain length. It
Hmm.
was really weird. So coming here, it was like so much freedom, and there was so many people. Like over there, it was like probably my class was probably like a couple hundred, and
Yeah.
here it was I don't even know how many, but it was just so many more than I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So, and also, my first year of high school, I didn't fully know English, so it was a challenge just understanding the teachers and trying to make friends, you know, and so it was like a really big transition to be around that many people every day, having to do homework in English, all that. But I really tried because I wanted to be in there and not be lost all the time. So I ended up learning English and made friends here.
Hmm.
Um, did okay in class.
Yeah.
Had art class. That was like the best. Having an art teacher and having art projects and all that. Which I kind of use art class just to do my own thing. You know,
Yeah.
just use all the tools there to work on my sketchbooks and my projects.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. It was I think that really helped to introduce me to become an adult here. you know
Yeah. Yeah, so you focused mostly on your art class then?
yeah, because that was the class that I didn't have to know all the English for.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just about doing. It's just about doing what I like to do, what I knew how to do, so that I would look forward to that class every day.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and there's something about like images, they have their own language, they actually
Yeah.
transcend like spoken language. So if
Oh
you
yeah.
can convey what you're trying to convey in an image, you don't necessarily need to speak the same language as the person viewing it.
Right. Yeah. You just do what you do, and then you show somebody, and then you're showing yourself to anybody. It doesn't matter what language they speak. You're just showing yourself, and they see you in whatever you're presenting. Doesn't matter what you can say about it in whatever language.
Yeah. So did you go to school? Did you go to art school after this, or did you go to a university or anything like that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like I'm kind of two minds about it. Like I think if you're that young and you absolutely know in your heart of hearts what you want to do, it can be a good thing to go to college or whatever. But like, I mean, let's be honest, most people have to take out loans and all this other
Yeah.
all this other shit that comes with it. And at 18, I'll speak for myself. I didn't know shit. You know what I mean? I was like, I guess I'll go to school because my parents say I should, blah blah blah. And so I think, in some way like not going to school can be more beneficial than having like, being saddled with student debt or whatever.
Right. Yeah. When I was in art class, some art teachers, suggested, that I would look into that. And I did. And, since I wasn't from here, anywhere that I would go, I would have to be out of state tuition. So it was just way more expensive.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the ability to take out loans and, all those things. So it was just, I did look into it and it was just way too much. So, it was like, okay, I can't do that. And just didn't even think about that anymore.
Yeah. So after high school, what did you do? You just got a job?
I yeah, just got a job and just tried out all the jobs. Didn't like not one of them, so just kept jumping from job to job, and ended up at this landscaping job that I liked because I was outside, all
Hell
day
yeah.
just playing with plants and flowers and all this, just like just outside, and that was the job that I kind of was like, okay, I can have this for a couple of years. And I think I worked landscaping for three years.
Hmm.
And that's where, I started just working on my paintings before and after work, because I had a job that I was okay with. I didn't have to worry about finding something else. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could focus just on making paintings before and after work.
And so do you think that like coming to the States when you did, right? And being in high school, having to learn the new language, having to, start over with like a peer group, um, and all those things. Do you think that that motivated you, like, like in a deep, deep way, to find what you wanted to do and pursue
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because I feel like, growing up over there, religion is like a big thing over there for
Mm,
people. So I grew up in that, so moving here, being away from all that, I kind of just realized how I was just like programmed in that sense. So, in high school, I became aware of that, and I started deprogramming myself. Just looking into every other religion, everything else, just like looking at all the information, just like wanting to learn everything about everything. So that process started in high school, and just kept developing that and kind of like remaking myself, you know,
yeah,
in a way. So definitely that did help. It made all the difference
yeah.
for sure.
I definitely want to drill down into that remaking yourself thing a little bit more. Um, what kind of like what stands out maybe as an influence from that time? What were you really drawn towards that that was different?
Okay, so I remember it really started with this documentary on Netflix. It was called Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, yeah.
So, learning about space, it was like, whoa, okay, now what my perspective changed. So, looking up at night was, completely changed. So from there, it became like, okay, Stephen Hawking is a, person I can learn from and learn about. And then it transferred to other people, and then eventually it was, like philosophers and poets and all, just going into people's work, that I could just dive into and learn what they had to teach. So, it became about like, okay, who else can I learn from? And then it was Terrence McKenna. And then he took me into a whole different world, and then he would mention names and I would look into. So it was just like a matter of just like going from person to person and, getting all the information.
Yeah. Yeah, McKenna's
Yeah.
been a huge influence on my life
Yes.
too. Um,
Yes.
and when you were talking about space, it reminded me of a story that I heard from him, but that's just like a historical kind of story. Is the guy Giordano Bruno, who who is like the first, Western guy, I guess, to sort of realize like looking up at the night sky and seeing space and realizing like those are all suns. All of those are suns. And I can't remember if he was burned at the stake or like, they did him Galileo style and just locked him in a tower. But like, it's just crazy that like, that's how far we've come in sort of a way where like people used to just get killed for pointing out the obvious
Yes.
or like
Yeah.
pointing out something different or like mind expanding, right?
Yeah.
Um, so when you were kind of on this journey of sort of like expanding your mind and reinventing yourself as a person, did you try psychedelics at this time?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And this was
It
in
all went, it's like,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I started reading about Terrence McKenna before that. I was in high school still. So I started to search for that, where can I get all that? And, it took me a couple of years. It wasn't until after high school that I came across some mushrooms. And that's when, but by that time I had all this information. So going into the trip, I knew what to do, late in the dark, 5 grams,
Yeah,
close
nice.
eyes. So it was like the moment that I had been waiting for. And
Wow,
then that just took me way deeper into all that.
nice, nice. What do you think you like? If you had to, if you had to make like a highlight reel of things that you've learned, either about yourself or about just the world in general, from this deep artist path that includes psychedelic use, what are some things that come to mind?
Like probably realization that um, the reality that we exist in, like right now, is
Mm,
just like a piece, it's just one layer of just like infinite layers
yeah,
that, and most people just look and live in this one layer, but I don't know if artists or just any, some people are able to just move through layers,
yeah,
but for sure artists are able to go through layers and then you see things and then you want to bring them back, so
100%.
that's the main thing that that I feel is like, people live in this layer. So then you go and explore into different places and then, you get all these impressions, from trips or dreams, you get these impressions of things that you see. So then in this layer where everybody else is, the act of creating is just the act of like pulling that out through the filter of you.
Yeah,
So I think that's the main thing, that's the main thing
yeah. Would you say that
that this whole process has cost within me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I think I think that a lot of people feel that way, you know. I know
Yeah.
I do definitely. Would you say that's kind of your purpose as well, or do you have like a purpose that you've for making art, right? That you've articulated over the years.
Yeah. So before doing this style or focusing on this style, my thing was to just like be like a vessel for whatever I could show coming from the subconscious or the superconscious or every other reality that I could, I've had glimpse of,
For sure.
So my thing was to just like do on the canvas something that I could show somebody, and then they're like, okay, I don't know what it is, but like I feel it, like it makes sense to me on a certain level,
Hmm.
like there's like a deep understanding that we can all share, and then if you show an image, you can like tap into that, without even knowing, you know.
Yeah, 100%. So when you were talking just a moment ago about the different layers of reality, I think I realize, like, and this is going to be just more or less a trip story, but I think I think one of the reasons why I'm drawn to your art with the statues, and you said melting statues, but I got super high one time at with my cousin at our grandmother's house, right? And a lot of people don't consider like cannabis or weed as a psychedelic, but I've had some of the craziest closed eye
Yeah,
visuals on weed,
yeah.
just as crazy as anything, really. I mean, besides like DMT. Uh, but I was laying down to go to sleep that night, and I could literally feel like something inside of me changing. I was like maybe 15, right? And we just got just, just baked, right? Uh and so I lay down, right? And all these, I think, assumptions and, yeah, I'll just say assumptions about reality were
Yeah,
being
yeah.
washed away. And I remember seeing, like, one of my visions was like Renaissance statues uh crumbling and
Mm,
melting away and receding, um and 15 years old, I didn't know shit from Shinola, but like looking back on it and putting my analytical brain, like, what was that, I think
right.
the best sentence I've come up with was that some parts of the Western cultural model were being disintegrated within my mind.
Mm, yeah.
Do you feel, and so with what I just said, does that resonate at all with what
Yeah,
you're doing?
yeah. I
Yeah.
feel exactly what you're saying. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Is
Yeah.
is that what you're trying to do though? Like with your work
Uh,
or
Probably like not specifically, but it might be part of the overall purpose of whatever is trying to happen, you know.
yeah,
So
100%.
it's like, there are things that I can like I just see and I'm like, I don't know what this means, and it's like an impression that's left on me. And
Hmm.
so all the things are just like ingredients, that are being used in that moment of creating.
Right.
So then after the painting is done, it's like, okay, what just happened here?
R-
And then it's like I look at it and it brings me back to dreams or trips or feelings or, and then I can kind of see what comes from where, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I was drawn personally to paintings or the act of painting in the first place is that um while I was painting, the verbal mind tends to be at least like tamped down, if not like muted altogether. And then I would notice, especially when I was first starting to paint, that either I can't tell which came first, chicken or the egg, but either the paintings that I was making were showing up in my dreams, or that my dreams were sort of precognitively influencing
Hmm.
my paintings. Because when I would get into that state, I would feel and remember the dream that I had had the night before. And it's crazy because like a lot of my stuff back then especially was sort of just like strange landscapes. And
Mm.
so I wonder if my I wonder which came first. It's always a fun thing to wonder about.
Yeah. It's weird because like there's, you might not be able to figure that out, because
Right.
it's just happening. It's
Right.
like just happening.
Right.
Yeah. And it might keep happening.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, it could just be some sort of like time loop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And maybe like the act of like creating, like kind of like shaping it, like, pushing it in a certain way, but it's still the same time loop. But do you have just a little bit of control where you like do something different and then you get that moment of like, oh, for the next one I'm gonna do this. So now
yeah.
you bring now like a conscious movement into the loop, and it just like maybe.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's fun to speculate on these things, like
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite pastimes for sure. Um, so I love talking about this shit. I could talk about it all day long. Like
Same.
I I kind of want to pivot though to just some more like because I don't know, what the listeners are feeling, but I'm curious as to um, some of your ideas about. That's not the right way to say this. I'm gonna have to edit this part out. I'm curious as to like who you would like to be compared to as an artist, without any false modesty. I'll add that too.
Right. Compared to
Like whose work?
whose work?
Yeah. I know it's a tough
I,
question.
right. I probably don't have one in specific person, but like definitely seeing like the old masters,
Hmm.
right? Like the quality of what they did, and whenever I started learning about them, it was like I had an intense feeling of like I want to be like that,
Yeah.
I want to be like them, not just one specific person, but like definitely, want to be remembered as like somebody that their paintings are like of high quality, like the actual painting is of high quality, but at the same time it has this like a twist, that is a new twist.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, it's a hard question, I
It's a
think.
tough one. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I I started thinking about novelty when you just said that with when you said the with a twist thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I know, you know, I've listened to way too much McKenna, I'll admit it, but like
same.
he talks about novelty like all the time,
Yeah,
right? And I just feel like we are in the time of like incredible novelty.
yeah,
And so I'm curious as to where you like how do you think that both of us make physical paintings, right? How do you think that
yeah.
physical paintings will hold up to this like oncoming wave of new technology that's changing things faster than our brains can keep up with, pretty much.
Right. I feel like there's gonna be a point where like the digital and virtual are gonna be the main thing, and then like physical paintings are gonna be like not to the same. But then I feel like as that continues, physical paintings are gonna come back and be like like a luxury, or
Yeah, yeah,
just because of how most things are going to be virtual. Now having a physical piece is going to be the thing to do, you
yeah.
know
It'll be even
yeah,
more of a status symbol at that
yeah,
point, right?
yeah, yeah. But like when virtual art becomes more mainstream, then there's definitely going to be more attention on that, but definitely it's not going to go away, you know
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm just curious because again, we're still in speculation zone here, where
yeah,
you know, I know I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but but it's fun to talk about nonetheless.
yeah.
But I just see that, like, everything's getting so crazy, and it's not just in you know, the digital art world. It's like, it seems like everything is just like at full throttle, clipping in the red like all the
Yeah.
time. Um, I don't know if I have a question to come out of this, but maybe just a comment. It seems like art for me, and I know for a lot of people I've interviewed, and for even a lot of people who appreciate it, seems to be sort of like this refuge away from like a lot of that noise. Um,
Yeah.
do you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. It's like the act of painting can be like locking yourself into the room that your favorite room,
Yeah,
where the everything that you love happens in that room, and you look forward to going into that room and locking yourself in, and everything you like, your favorite music, your favorite anything is in that room. So that going back into the moment of painting is like, yeah, it's like the perfect time, you know.
yeah.
It's like where everything makes sense. You're in your space.
hmm Do you feel like art
Yeah.
is therapy in some sort of way, or like
Oh yeah,
therapeutic?
for sure. For sure. Because, I feel like, everybody, like every artist spends hours and hours and hours. And those are hours that you have to be sitting still and focused on something and, out here, being in the moment. So in those moments, everything can come up, things they come up, so then it's like, what do you do with that? You can deal with it, process it, so you got to find a way to be able to keep doing that, because if you try to ignore it, then it becomes a hassle to be painting and sit down, and you don't want to do that. But if you find a way to deal with it and process it and use it as a way to process whatever's going on, then
Yeah.
it can be the best tool for sure. Yeah.
Do you think artists have to be in at least in touch, maybe not like feeling it all the time, but do you think they have to be in touch with their particular pain or maybe like some suffering that they have experienced?
My headphone just died.
Ah, okay. I'll repeat the question. Just let me know.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was, do you think artists have to be in touch with their pain or some sort of suffering that they've been through in order to make good art?
um I think that any intense emotion will do, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
If you're in tune with the emotion, then there's definitely something can come out of that. Just the act of feeling that, whatever it is, just the fact that you're feeling it and not ignoring it, you're going into it.
Yeah.
That makes something happen for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I
And
think
like if it's like pain, like that's very intense and then on your face and you can't ignore it. So that's why that could be the one thing, like a painful, or suffering, because you can't ignore it. But I feel
yeah.
like any intense feeling can do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I might actually this has been a question I've been asking some people the last few podcasts. But I might actually tailor that question now to be more like an intense emotion because that seems to be more like right on the money. I think I just used pain because no matter who you are, like you're gonna you're gonna feel some kind of pain in your
Yeah.
life. Like it's sort of
Yeah.
unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, inescapable in this little layer of reality
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
mostly find ourselves in. But and I to get back to the artist therapy thing, like, and I think that that's such a huge benefit of art is like instead of letting that pain just run you over and control you and you know make you do questionable things, you're
Yeah.
you're dealing with it in real time,
Yes.
whether it's music or dance or song or or writing, whatever it is, you're taking that, and instead of letting it fester and boil up inside of you,
Yeah.
you're expressing it in this at least neutral, if not like positive way, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the fact that you're doing something physical, as you're going through it, it's like helping you just having like, an outlet,
Yeah.
because it's like the physical, you're doing something as you're doing that. It just works out, and I also feel it as, the more you deal with it in the moment, the better it is once you walk away from that moment. You're not carrying that. It's already dealt with to a certain level.
Yeah.
So you have more space to do more things with your being,
Yeah.
after. It's almost like working out. You're like working out and becoming stronger within,
100%.
and then you can go and deal with other things in a better way.
Yeah. Well, this is a perfect point to segue into asking about your daily routine. Do you stick to a daily routine in any sort of like strict way, or what's it like? I guess describe the perfectly productive and
Okay.
most balanced day that you could have, do you think?
Okay, so yeah, this is like what I aim for, but I don't want it to be an everyday thing, but like it's what I aim for, and just like it's like what keeps me grounded,
Right.
And that would be like I would start working around 11 p.m., then work all night, and then probably go to sleep around 5 to 7 a.m.
Uh-huh.
and then sleep 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, and then wake up first thing, go to the gym, then come back and have my breakfast, at whatever time, 3, 4 p.m. Then if I have time, I can, start working on something. And then right before sunset, I will go on a bike ride, for an hour.
Nice.
Then I would come back and then have my, my main meal, and then start preparing to get to work, start getting everything ready. And then that's where, like my work would start. And by that time, it's like, I don't know, 9, 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's where I would start. And that's like, maximum productivity.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, a few things about that. You're a night owl, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Did I wake you up today? Like, did you, when we scheduled this interview, I was like, 1 p.m. is probably cool for me. And I know you're just an hour behind me. So is this like the first part of your day?
I did have to wake up early so that I could go to the gym before this.
Okay.
But, not every day is like that. Like in the past 24 hours, I've had a few periods of like 4 hour of sleep at a time. So like I haven't slept a whole 8 hours. Like I slept for 4 hours before I woke up to do this, but I was awake all night.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a nap before. So like my sleep schedule is really weird.
Yeah.
And I can, like I work for 5, 6 hours at a time, sometimes more.
Yeah.
But, I look to have that routine as much as possible, but sometimes I don't,
Yeah, for sure.
I knew that I had to, this was going to start at 3 p.m. for me. So I knew that I had to be up by 1 or 12 to be able to work out before this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like I plan according to what I got going on. So
sure. Yeah. You're flexible basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I feel like every artist at least has to be flexible with their own timing and stuff, Like,
yeah.
If not downright, just like all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's
a mixture of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how I was for a long time. I mean, I still am to a certain extent, depending on, like you said, like what I have going on, right? But I found like if I can, just getting on a normal quote unquote, or at least a consistent schedule is it really helps with my productivity and like being in a healthy rhythm. Uh, there's something about momentum instead of, just trying to force 16 hours of work into one day, which sometimes happens and that's great. But
Yeah.
like instead of that, like just sort of, working 10-hour days, for a longer period of time in this consistent manner. For me, that's built up more momentum than
Mm.
just trying to power through one day and be like, oh, I got to paint 16, 18 hours today or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted to ask you about exercising, going to the gym. Is that a daily thing for you?
Yeah.
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 Do you feel like that helps your mental
Yeah.
health as well as your
Yes,
physical?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, being in that moment of just like, pushing through a workout, it just feels amazing,
Yeah.
and the feeling after that is just like,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. So I pursue that every day,
Nice.
you know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not as consistent, I don't think, as you are probably, but um, I'll speak to that because the other day I was trying to make this is gonna sound stupid, but I like being vulnerable. I think it helps people like connect, the other day I was trying to make this Instagram video because I wanted to promote like this little sale I'm doing or whatever. By the time people hear this, it'll be all over. So this isn't in itself a promotion. It's just talking about this thing I was doing. But I couldn't get the video that I had made that I had even taken into Premiere and like edited. I couldn't get it back on my phone, so I couldn't post it. And it was just a super frustrating day.
Yeah.
And I hadn't exercised and like, bro, I was walking around for like an hour just like with all this pent up like frustration and rage
Mm.
inside of me.
Yeah.
And we were walking my dog and we were walking through like the kind of nicer neighborhoods up the hill from where I live. And these people were talking in their driveway. Two dogs were there. One of them had a leash, but the owner wasn't holding it. And the dog came and ran up to my dog and just started barking. And like it took everything I had not to just like flip out. But
Mm.
I did yell at the lady. I was like, "Yo, come get your dog." And it was this
Yeah.
like, it's like to speak of dogs again, like when they shake, they like shake themselves off. I feel like that they're
Yeah.
expressing like and they're getting all this energy out that's like building up. They're like releasing tension a little bit. And I do agree the times that I do exercise and push through, whether it's running or lifting or whatever, I feel like I'm a dog like shaking off all this
Oh yeah. Yeah. You
extra
feel
like
just
bullshit.
light. You just feel so light.
Yeah. And then the
Yeah.
endorphins come after and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like you just want more and more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever create or do you ever paint when you're super tired, meaning like or like you're in a place where like I don't feel like painting? Do you ever like push through like a workout, or do you find that it's good to just always be in an optimal state?
Um, I feel like you don't always have to be in optimal state,
Right.
and the act of painting could get you in that place. Because I have um, been very tired, and just like not wanting to do anything, but I'm like sitting there and I'm looking at the painting. And then the more I look at it, I start, imagining myself painting it and working on certain areas. And then it'll be like an hour just sitting there looking at it, thinking about it. And then eventually like I'm on it.
Yeah.
And then like I'm a whole different person,
Hmm.
since I was a moment before, just feeling tired and all that. Sometimes, yeah, power through it. Uh, Mostly with murals, like the very last mural I did, which was the biggest, I had 6 days to do it. And that one I did work like 10 hour, 12-hour days,
Yeah.
6 days. By the fifth day, I was really pushing through it. And I only
100%.
had a ladder to get on.
Ooh.
But the very act of like being tired and like sweating, it was a whole trip. You know, it was like its own journey. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So I want to pull that up real quick because, and this will be like probably the last screen share I do, but I think it's pretty dope mural, by the way. Here it is. Sort of like is that the same kind of statue reference, like sort of melting together, or is it different?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the same, like almost like three faces of the same,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
versions of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So just three different angles. That's super cool. And I like that you had this this kind of gold stencil, um, almost like wallpaper or something. Pew.
Yeah. That's how it felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Murals are actually super physically challenging for anybody who has never really experienced making a mural.
Yeah, and it's amazing to put in that like physical work towards that.
Yeah. Here you are kind of like doing your process here on this mural. How are you selecting for colors? That's one thing I was curious about.
Based on what I've done before, and if I want to do something different, or just it's mostly like what I feel, you know, what like feels right. Like I'll look at other paintings and just get inspired by that, and you know, just think of new colors that I can add or new combinations.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end, it's just like what feels right.
Yeah.
Just whatever happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed like the acrylic pouring. Sorry, I'm all over the place and not being like linear with my
It's all
interview
good. That's
today.
how we are.
Yeah, but I noticed that the acrylic pouring, like the way that it sits on a surface, it definitely sort of reminds me of like a marble or like an agate. You know what it like a stone agate pattern.
Yeah.
In there, and so yeah, I mean, I don't know where I was going with that, but.
Sometimes the paint has the consistency where it shows up like that, you know, where like the other colors just like go underneath like the main color, and it ends up being just like this off-white with like the gold just sinks into it, and then every other color that I put just like disappears, and you know, it just ends up being like that.
Yeah.
I have some paintings that look like that, but that's just what happens, you know, which is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, man. I think we'll wrap it up here soon, but I just want to say that I love that you're kind of using to like tie it all back together, the happy little accident approach of Bob Ross.
Yeah.
And really like carving into that. I think that that's super unique, super novel, and I can't wait for more. One last question I'll ask you is, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
The advice I would give to my younger self, I think, would be to do and paint as much as possible. Just experiment as much as possible, because that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And the doing is the teacher. The more you do it, the more you learn. You know, the more hours you can put into it, like the faster everything happens.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The doing is the teacher. I love that, man. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for hopping on this interview with me. And Stephen the Artist, right, on Instagram.
Stephen the Artist, yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. Well, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. If you are interested in supporting the Patreon, that address is patreon.com/ArtsyAF Podcast. And I want to thank all my patrons. You guys keep this engine running. I couldn't do it without you. Go over there and check out the tiers I have available. It includes video, guest suggestions, patron-only posts, and some merchandise. Thank you again for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. Do all those little things that help get Artsy AF into the consciousness of more and more people. Shout.